Greetings, learners. You are on to Mixed Media Level F. This is where we dive into sewing. This video is going to feel really complex, but yet it is the simplest version of sewing that we can do, and there is much more to do once you get started with sewing. Okay, let's see what our skills say. So, jumping right on into our skills, we are at level F. All the way over here, it says I can follow the safety rules for sewing. I can thread a needle by myself. I can sew two pieces of fabric together. I can create and follow a pattern. I can add details using thread or fabric. And I can create a piece that won't fall apart. Okay, so it is important to note that we are going to be working really small because this is us just learning a skill. It is harder to hold on to things when you're working this small, but it is also much faster. To make that pattern, you're going to go ahead and get a tracer. Any type will do. You want to work as big as you can for the size of fabric that you're given. And then we are going to go ahead and trace in pen. I like to use erasable pen, the outline. Now mine will look a lot darker on the video than yours will, and that's okay. We don't want this to show up too much. You're going to write your name and class code. Once you've done that, you're actually going to have two pieces, and you're going to go ahead and staple them together. You're only going to do one staple, and then the placement of this staple is important. You're going to want to make sure that your staple isn't right next to the line, but also we're going to be doing a detail on the other side, so you don't want it in the center. Okay, so it's kind of like on the top, but not close to touching that line. Okay, once you've done this, you can go ahead and cut out your pattern. Now this is where it can be a little tricky. Fabric is not easy to cut. You'll notice I'm stretching it between my fingers. I'm pulling it like this between my fingers. I'm going really slow with my scissors. I'm trying to keep everything lined up, and I'm going super slow. I'm working with the very kind of sharpest point that I think I can find on my scissors, so whatever feels like you're getting the most cut. And I'm going much slower than I would with a piece of paper. I'm keeping my other hand right next to it. Okay, once that is done, I am ready to go ahead and get my fabric, and I'm going to start by sewing my details. Or not fabric, my yarn. So I'm going to be using bright black yarn so that you can see it. There will be thinner stuff available, but I recommend starting with something thicker to begin with. How much to take? Well, you're going to hold it in your hand, and then you're going to stretch it all the way to your elbow, and then you're going to stretch it all the way back to your hand. Okay, so you're going to double it back up, so it's like doubled. It's a lot to get in there. And then you're going to chop it off. I've already chopped one off. Now, once you've done this, it's time for the needles. Very important with the needles. We never want one of these to get lost. If one does get lost, it is essential as someone taking care of the supply that you tell the teacher right away so that this doesn't end up in somebody's foot. Okay, so when we take out our needle, pop her out, then we have to thread it. It's not as easy as it sounds. So what you're going to do is go get your fingers wet, and then you're going to swirl your yarn to make it a nice tight point. Then you're going to get your hand all the way down to the bottom, and then let's see if I can get this in the video. When you stab it in, it's not going to go smoothly. It's going to barely get in there, and you got to take your other finger and you got to just wiggle and get it through. It takes a lot of practice, but remember, this is what you're supposed to be able to do by yourself. The trick is to get that wet and to twist it before you start. You're going to take a little bit of your yarn and pull it through, and then you're going to have the tail. Okay, to start your details, you're not going to go in from up top. Instead, you're going to go in from underneath. You're going to stab through. So I'm going from underneath, stabbing through. And then I'm going to stop when I've got about that much thread, okay? And then I'm gonna stab through again, and I'm gonna stab through on my line, but a little bit up. And then I'm gonna stab through and pull. Now, I'm gonna stop right there, and I'm gonna take my thread and I'm gonna tie a knot. So I go cross it, just like for shoes. Cross it, take the tail, put it underneath, and pull tight, just like the first step of doing a shoe. Okay, once I've done that, I'm ready to keep sewing. So now this is the hard part. I gotta look at my design. Now Miss Russ made hers in Sharpie so that for the video you could see it. Yours is gonna be in pin, so you gotta look really closely, and you're gonna go up a little ways, and then you're gonna stab through. Okay, little ways I stabbed through. Now when I come through the other side, you're gonna notice, I missed a spot. My thread is here, my yarn is there. This is just marker, just pin. You have to go backwards, so I'm gonna go back through where I was before and stab down, pull through. I always hold my thread here so that I don't have to rethread my needle. Okay? Now I made a line. Okay, so when I look on the back, I'm gonna go up a little ways. Okay? Not a lot, just a little ways. Stab through. Okay? Pull through the other side. Now again, there's gonna be a space. There's gonna be a space. So then I go through this direction, right? I gotta go backwards. So it's always forwards, backwards, forwards, backwards. And then you might even find, if I go all the way up here, let's pretend all the way up here, now I'm gonna have to go all the way over here. And then I have to go all the way over here. But you might have a letter where you need to move where you're at. So let's pretend I have a letter where I need to move where I am at. I'm on the back side, and all I have to do is just go to where I want to be and poke through. See that? So that's how you can move your thread to where you need it to be, and now I could sew again. Once you finish your detail, you are going to cut off your thread, okay, but not on the outside. We'll pretend I did my whole letter. So I'm on the inside. I'm on the inside. And now I need to make another knot before I cut. This one's harder, so watch. I go underneath another thread that will be there. I go underneath it with my needle, and then that makes a loop. And then I take my needle and I go through, let's see if you can see it. I go through my loop. So my yarn now is going through my loop, and as I pull it, I can see it's getting tighter. Being careful to not ruin the front of it, I kind of hold it in place, and I wiggle and pull, and I wiggle and pull until I get a tight knot. If I think it's not tight enough, I can do that again. I go under, we got band instruments, through my loop, pull tight. Then I could cut off my extra where I leave a little tail. Okay, we'll pretend I did all of that. Now I'm ready to sew my thing together. To get it sewn together, I pick a place to start and I stab through in the corner, or wherever I want to start. I want to be kind of close to the edge. I pull almost all the way through, but then I stop and I make another one of those knots. Okay, and if I want to, I can do 2 for good measure. Then I leave this tail here, and then we're going to do the simplest form of sewing, which means we're just going to take our needle, and from the same side, we're going to stab in, and then we're going to keep going. I kind of create the same distance away, stab through, and then pull through. I always stab from the same side. Let's do it one more time. Creating a line, I go the same distance away, stab through, make sure my little loop goes on the edge, move my loop so it's right where I want it to be, and pull tight. Now once I've done that a bunch and make it all the way around, it's going to look like this. I have nice even sewing that's tight, super tight, but I'm not going to close it up because now I'm going to turn it into a pillow. I need to leave enough space that my finger can get into here, okay? Then I'm going to take my stuffing, and this is the hard part. You have to take your stuffing and you have to kind of wiggle it, wiggle it, wiggle it. This is kind of the trick of sewing. And you're always trying to take something that is too big and put it into a space that is too small. And I wiggle, wiggle, wiggle with my fingers. I can even use like a pin if I need to and poke it in with a pin, but I fill that space. And in order to make a good little pillow, you want it to be super, super stuffed. When you think you can't stuff anymore, you keep on stuffing. Okay? Now I made that look easy because I have a little experience, but you're going to keep stuffing. I even could put more stuffing in this because see, my corners aren't totally budged out. Then when I'm all done, notice my yarn is still here. I go ahead and sew it up just the way I've done. And when I get to the end, I'm going to go ahead and pull all the way through. And then if I have enough room, this is where I do that knot, where I take my yarn and I put my needle through the loop and then I pull tight. And then I'm going to do that again. I put my needle through, I wrap my thread around, let's see if I can get it where you can see it, around my needle. Trying to get it so you can see it. Around, oh, I just undid it. Around my needle, and then I pull through. You can also, if you've got enough string, you can just do this because you're going right back where you started. Once you have it good and tight off, you're going to cut it off. And ta-da! You're ready. Now all you have to do is remove that staple. This is where it gets tricky. You have to use your fingers. Sometimes if you're super careful, you can remove the needle and use that. Your teacher might have little pliers for you to use, but you've got to get that staple out of there so that your thing is all good and secure. Okay, couple of quick tips. First, when it's time for cleanup, this needle does not get to go with your project even if you're not done. You have to unstring it and make sure to put your needle back because we always need to know where all the needles are. Another little trick is you will poke yourself with that needle. It will happen. You're just fine. All you need to do is go get a Band-Aid because it will probably barely even bleed and it'll stop super quick. Sewers have to be tough. They're just going to get stabbed. Okay, with that, enjoy your sewing experience and make sure that you keep track of that checklist and that you're getting all the things that we're looking for done. If it takes you 2 tries, no big deal. Sewing is kind of a complicated task, and I made it look way easier than it actually is your first time. Bye!